The story didn't begin with a championship point or a player lifting a trophy. It began with something far stranger. Tournament officials in Berlin walked into the stadium expecting the excitement of a prestigious WTA 500 event, only to find themselves staring at rows of empty seats that seemed impossible to explain. Just 24 hours earlier, those same stands had been overflowing with energy. Fans were waving Philippine flags, chanting at the top of their lungs, and creating an atmosphere that felt more like a home tournament than an event taking place in Germany. Overnight, they were gone. It wasn't because the weather had changed. It wasn't because the tournament had lost its importance. The only thing that had changed was one result. Alex Eala had been eliminated. In that single moment, the Berlin Open discovered something the tennis world had been overlooking for years. This wasn't simply the story of a rising tennis star. It was the story of an entire community capable of transforming an international tournament almost overnight. Before Berlin, many people viewed Alex Eala as another talented young player trying to establish herself on the WTA Tour. She arrived carrying a wild-card entry, ranked outside the sport's biggest household names and facing a draw filled with experienced champions. Expectations were modest. Most analysts believed she might win a match or two before eventually running into one of the tournament favorites. After all, grass has always been one of the most challenging surfaces in tennis. Players spend most of the season on hard courts and clay, leaving very little time to master the unique speed and movement that grass demands. Experience usually wins. That made Eala's challenge look even more difficult. But sometimes sports ignore predictions completely. Sometimes rankings stop mattering the moment the first ball is struck. From her opening match, there was something different about the young Filipina. She wasn't playing with fear. She wasn't acting like someone grateful just to be sharing the court with bigger names. Instead, she played with remarkable confidence, trusting every swing and refusing to back away when the pressure intensified. Her first obstacle came against Donna Vekic, a proven grass court player with years of experience competing at the highest level. It was exactly the kind of match that tests whether an underdog truly belongs. The contest swung back and forth, and when the final moments arrived, Eala found herself under enormous pressure. Many young players would have tightened up. Many would have allowed the occasion to overwhelm them. Instead, she stayed composed, fought through the tension, and completed an impressive comeback that left the crowd applauding her determination. It wasn't the biggest win of her career, but it quietly planted the first seed of belief. People began asking themselves a simple question. What if this wasn't just another promising youngster? What if something special was unfolding right in front of them? Those questions grew much louder when the draw presented an even greater challenge. Waiting in the next round was one of the most dangerous players in women's tennis, Elena Rybakina, a Wimbledon champion, one of the hardest hitters on tour. A player whose powerful serve and aggressive baseline game had overwhelmed countless opponents on grass courts around the world. On paper, this looked like the end of Eala's remarkable week. Experts expected Rybakina's experience and firepower to prove too much. Few imagined the match would become one of the biggest surprises of the tournament. From the opening games, Eala refused to let reputation dictate the outcome. She chased every ball, absorbed the pace, redirected powerful shots with remarkable precision, and displayed a level of maturity that seemed well beyond her age. Every time Rybakina tried to seize control, Eala answered with fearless tennis. The longer the match continued, the more the atmosphere inside the stadium began to change. Spectators who had originally come expecting a routine victory for the favorite suddenly found themselves witnessing a genuine upset in progress. With every winner, the applause became louder. With every crucial point, more people stood from their seats. By the time Eala secured the victory, the stadium erupted. It wasn't just another upset. It felt like the arrival of a completely new force in women's tennis. Social media exploded within minutes. Tennis fans around the world rushed to watch highlights of the match, wondering how a young wild card had managed to defeat one of the sport's elite players on her strongest surface. But perhaps the strongest reaction came from Filipinos across the globe. Pride spread through communities in Europe, Asia, North America, and beyond. Messages of celebration flooded every major social media platform. Fans who had followed Eala since her junior days suddenly realized history might be unfolding in Berlin. Some were already living in nearby European countries. Others began making travel plans almost immediately. Flights were booked. Hotels filled. Vacation days were requested. It wasn't simply about watching tennis anymore. It became about supporting someone who represented an entire nation's hopes on one of the biggest stages in the sport. Every great sporting journey eventually reaches a moment where one upset must be followed by another. Winning once can be dismissed as luck. Winning twice against world-class opposition forces everyone to pay attention. That's exactly the position Eala found herself in as she advanced deeper into the tournament. Confidence was growing with every passing day, but so were the expectations. Suddenly, she wasn't just a wild card enjoying a memorable week. She had become one of the biggest stories in international tennis. Reporters who hadn't planned to cover her began requesting interviews. Television cameras followed her practice sessions. Fans lined up hoping for photographs and autographs. The pressure surrounding her increased dramatically, yet her calm demeanor never seemed to change. She continued speaking with humility, reminding everyone that she simply wanted to play her best tennis regardless of who stood across the net. Then came another enormous challenge. Standing between Eala and the semi-finals was another member of the world's elite, a seasoned player with years of experience competing under pressure. Once again, many believed the magical run was about to end. Instead, Eala produced another performance filled with intelligence, composure, and fearless shot-making. She controlled rallies, attacked at the right moments, defended brilliantly when necessary, and gradually wore down her accomplished opponent. When the final point landed inside the court, history had officially been made. Alex Eala had reached her first WTA 500 semifinal, guaranteed herself a career-best ranking inside the world's top 30, and proven that her earlier victories were no accident. Yet what happened after that victory may have been even more extraordinary than the tennis itself. While Eala celebrated another unforgettable milestone, something remarkable was happening beyond the court. Across Berlin, thousands of Filipino supporters continued arriving, determined to witness history with their own eyes. The city was about to experience something tournament organizers never saw coming. As news of Alex Eala's remarkable run spread across Europe, Berlin slowly transformed into something no one at the tournament headquarters had expected. Every morning, more Filipino flags appeared outside the stadium. Train stations welcomed travelers carrying tennis bags and national colors. Hotels began checking in guests whose only reason for visiting Germany was to watch one player compete. It wasn't part of any organized campaign. There were no massive advertising budgets or official fan tours. This movement grew naturally through families, friends, overseas communities, and social media, where one inspiring victory after another convinced thousands that they were witnessing a once-in-a-generation moment. The organizers noticed the surge almost immediately. Ticket requests suddenly skyrocketed. Customer service lines became flooded with inquiries. Seats that had been available just days earlier disappeared within hours, leaving staff scrambling to understand what was happening. At first, they assumed interest had simply increased because the tournament had reached its final stages. But as they looked closer, one pattern became impossible to ignore. Nearly every conversation centered around the same name: Alex Eala. Fans weren't simply attending the Berlin Open. They were coming specifically to watch her. It was an extraordinary reminder that sports are often about far more than rankings and trophies. Sometimes a single athlete becomes the emotional connection that inspires people to cross borders, spend their savings, and create memories they'll never forget. The demand became so overwhelming that tournament officials had to rethink their entire operation. Additional seating areas were prepared. Security personnel were reassigned to manage larger crowds. Entry gates became noticeably busier as long lines stretched farther outside the venue than anyone had predicted before the tournament began. Staff members who had worked countless international events admitted they had rarely witnessed anything similar. It wasn't just the number of supporters that stood out. It was their passion. Everywhere you looked, there were families proudly wearing Philippine colors, children carrying homemade signs, and fans who had traveled hundreds, sometimes thousands, of kilometers simply to cheer for one player. Many had never attended a professional tennis tournament before. Yet there they were, filling the stadium with energy that instantly changed the atmosphere. Television broadcasts began capturing these colorful scenes, and suddenly viewers around the world were asking the same question. Who are these incredible fans, and where did they all come from? The answer was both simple and powerful. They came from everywhere. Filipinos living across Europe answered the call almost instinctively. Some drove through the night from neighboring countries. Others boarded early morning flights after making last-minute travel plans. There were supporters from London, Paris, Madrid, Rome, Amsterdam, Brussels, and countless other cities. Some even traveled from much farther away because they believed opportunities like this don't come often. They weren't chasing celebrity culture or social media attention. They simply wanted to stand behind someone who represented their country on one of tennis' biggest stages. Every cheer inside the stadium carried a deeper meaning. Every chant echoed with national pride. For many overseas Filipinos, watching Eala compete wasn't just entertainment. It felt personal. It felt like watching a dream that belonged to millions. The local media quickly realized they had stumbled upon one of the tournament's biggest stories. Newspapers featured photographs of the sea of Philippine flags decorating the stands. Television crews interviewed supporters who described why they had traveled such long distances. One fan explained that she had followed Eala's career since her teenage years and couldn't miss the chance to witness history in person. Another described how the young tennis star had become a source of inspiration for Filipinos living far from home. Their stories added another emotional layer to the tournament. This wasn't simply about wins and losses anymore. It had become a celebration of identity, hope, and representation on a global stage. Even longtime tennis observers admitted they hadn't anticipated such an overwhelming response. It challenged many assumptions about where the sport's most passionate audiences could come from. As excitement continued building, all attention shifted toward the semi-final. Waiting on the other side of the net was Linda Noskova, one of the brightest young stars in women's tennis, and a player whose aggressive style had already caused Eala major problems earlier in the season. Their previous meeting had been painfully one-sided, leaving many analysts convinced that history might repeat itself. Noskova possessed one of the biggest serves among the younger generation, striking the ball with tremendous power and confidence. On grass courts, that weapon became even more dangerous. She could shorten points, control rallies almost immediately, and place enormous pressure on opponents from the very first game. Despite those challenges, the atmosphere surrounding Eala remained optimistic. Fans believed they had already watched her overcome impossible odds against players many considered unbeatable. Why couldn't she do it one more time? As match day arrived, the energy around the stadium reached another level entirely. Long before the gates officially opened, crowds had already gathered outside, singing, waving flags, and sharing stories about the unforgettable week they had experienced together. Inside the arena, nearly every available seat filled quickly. The noise grew louder with every passing minute as supporters eagerly waited for Eala to step onto the court. When she finally appeared for warm-ups, the reception felt almost overwhelming. Cheers echoed around the stadium, creating an atmosphere that resembled a championship.
Final rather than a semi-final. It was clear that, regardless of what happened next, Alex Eala had already become the heart of the tournament. Yet elite sports have a cruel way of reminding everyone how thin the line is between triumph and heartbreak. From the opening games, something looked different. Noskova immediately established control with powerful serving, forcing Eala onto the defensive far more often than she had been throughout the week. The Czech star attacked relentlessly, refusing to allow long rallies where Eala's creativity could shine. Every service game seemed to arrive with another ace or another unreturnable delivery. Momentum that had carried Eala through earlier rounds suddenly became much harder to find. To make matters even more difficult, Eala appeared uncomfortable physically. She showed signs of discomfort around her upper arm, and while she never used it as an excuse, viewers could tell she wasn't moving with quite the same freedom that had defined her previous victories. Still, she refused to surrender. Every point was met with determination. every difficult rally ended with another attempt to fight back. The crowd sensed her struggle and responded by cheering even louder, hoping their voices could somehow shift the momentum. But on this particular day, Noskova simply played outstanding tennis. She dictated play from the baseline, struck winners from every corner of the court, and never allowed Eala to build the rhythm that had made her so dangerous throughout the tournament. After just over an hour, the match came to an end. The dream of reaching the Berlin Open final was over. Yet what happened in the moments after the final point revealed something far more meaningful than the result itself. Instead of disappointment turning into frustration, thousands of supporters rose together and applauded. They weren't celebrating a victory. They were honoring an unforgettable journey. Many fans remained standing long after Eala left the court, fully aware they had witnessed one of the most important weeks in Philippine tennis history. But no one, not the players, the organizers, or even the television commentators, could have predicted what would happen when the tournament returned the following day for the championship match. The following afternoon, the Berlin Open was supposed to deliver its biggest spectacle. Two outstanding players were set to compete for one of the most prestigious titles on the WTA calendar. On paper, everything pointed toward a memorable championship match. Tournament officials expected another electric atmosphere, television broadcasters were ready for a dramatic finale, and sponsors looked forward to seeing a packed stadium showcase the event to millions of viewers around the world. But as the gates opened and spectators slowly entered the venue, something immediately felt different. The energy that had defined the previous few days was gone. The colorful waves of Philippine flags had vanished. The chants that echoed throughout the stadium had fallen silent. Instead of long lines stretching outside the entrance, there were empty walkways and unusually quiet ticket booths. Staff members exchanged puzzled looks, wondering if the crowd was simply arriving late. Minutes passed, then another half hour, but the empty seats remained. What had looked like one of the tournament's greatest successes had suddenly become one of its biggest surprises. As players began their warm-ups, entire sections of the stadium were still unoccupied. Cameras carefully avoided lingering on the vacant stands, but there was no hiding the obvious. Just one day earlier, every available seat had been filled by passionate supporters eager to witness Alex Eala's incredible journey. Now the atmosphere felt strangely subdued. It wasn't because fans had lost interest in tennis itself. It wasn't because the quality of the finalists was in question. Both competitors had earned their place through exceptional